Alan Quinlan, good morning to you.
Morning, Adrian. How are you?
Good. Lots of URC to get stuck into, including the Aviva tomorrow evening. We'll talk about that in a minute. But first of all, the Ireland squad, we haven't had a chance to catch up with you on that. I should say Alan Quinlan, host of the Red 78 podcast, available now on the Rugby channel. Simon Zebo in. Something changed, Quinny, between the 50-man squad that was named in September and now. Was it just that they had to leave a sort of a reasonable gap to say, we don't want to rush this guy? Before you send that second text, was that it, or were they wowed over by a couple of performances?
That's a good question. I think probably just wanted him to play a few games first before they announced him in that training squad. And unfortunately, he didn't get much ball last week. He scored 2 good tries against the Sharks. And I suppose showed a little bit of magic. Didn't have a lot to do for those tries, but did some very good things in the game as well, and looked strong and assured and stuff like that. But I suppose this is the argument for certain players when coaches kind of see something in a player and see what they can do and the talent they have. And I heard Draco saying it during the week, like it's down to an opinion. If you're into a player and you like a player, you'll go back and pick him. And you look at someone like Jack Carty, who is very unlucky not to be in the squad. And I think the point was made that maybe they look at him and don't see him being a starter for Ireland. I don't know. Maybe that's a bit harsh to say that, but he's unfortunate not to be in there.
There's literally nothing else he could do, Quinny, is there? Like, that's...
Well, he Connacht struggled for a few games as well, Adrian. It wasn't that he had man-of-the-match performances in them all. Maybe he's got to work that bit harder and play some... tomorrow is a big game.
Yeah.
Connacht do well tomorrow and he plays well in that. Well, then there's an argument. He might end up... there might be an injury. He might be called into the squad. So he's got to be patient as well. It's sometimes a bit more frustrating for other players. I experienced that in my own career, where you end up playing some good games and it's the opinion of another player who maybe not shooting the lights out at that particular time, but the coach believes in him and something like that. So it's a bit unfortunate for him. For Zebo, is someone like Andy Farrell will look at someone like Zebo and Mike Cat and they'll think, what are his big advantages? What are the positives here in Simon Zebo? It's that X factor, it's that attack, it's that individual brilliance. What are the weaknesses? Well, maybe he can switch off sometimes. Maybe he needs to be stronger defensively. Maybe the work rate needs to be up a little bit. But we've all had weaknesses, and I think when you have someone with such incredible talent, it tickles your fancy more than looking at the weaknesses, and that's what's probably happened here. Zebo can unlock defence, and he can do something special. So
from opposition, like we're going to get into over the next God knows a couple of years talking about, is he a full back, is he a wing? Is that a legitimate debate, or do we just accept that he's going to be in to fill whatever role is going?
Well, it doesn't bother me. I think he can play very effective as a winger as well. Full back gets him involved that bit more. He's very good under the high ball, in fairness to him. That's one of his strengths. The left boot is a massive weapon for a team as well. I think Ireland have used Stockdale effectively over the years with that left boot. You saw the block down last week from Jack Carty on Joey Carberry. If you had someone like Zebo as an option to give a pass on a left boot as well for that crossfield kind of wipers kick, it's a great weapon to have. Or have your right-footed kicker at one side of the scrum and your left foot at the other. It's a really good option. So Hugo Quinlan has been rock solid since he's moved into full back. So I think that position is his own. So I think for Simon Zebo, I think it's fighting to try and get a position on the wing.
That's an interesting point, Quinny, that you mentioned Hugo Quinlan. Like I know Keith Wood was on Off the Ball during the week, kind of saying similar things. That look, he's a huge fan of him, but the competition at the position is huge. You've got Zebo and Keenan, Carberry, Larmer who can play there as well. Like when you're looking ahead to these internationals coming up, is Zebo used, if he is at full back, is he used in the bigger games, the New Zealand game, the Argentina game, or how do you see it? It seems unlikely that Zebo will be used in the USA game, for example.
Well, I don't know, Shane. I think maybe they'll want to get the jersey on his back and get him kind of firing up the crowd and doing something special in that game as well. So I don't know. I think he's in the squad. He's someone who's a lot of experience. He's played in a lot of big games over the years. It's been 4 years since he's played in Ireland shirt. I think the biggest game is New Zealand. That's the standout one. But they're 3 tough tests. Japan caused them a lot of problems in the warm-up game in the summer with their attack. Obviously, the World Cup is going to hang around for a long time, but what happened there? So I saw some people kind of giving out online a bit, saying that the squad that's picked is all about winning these games. Well, it has to be. I know you need development as well, but there's 6 guys that made their debuts in the summer. There's 2 uncapped players, so there are 8 guys with, that are practically new to the squad. France announced a squad with 8 uncapped players, but effectively Ireland have a similar situation there. There's 8 guys there have come in and they were involved in those 2 summer tests and the 2 uncapped ones in Frawley and Sheehan. So I think there is a bit of a transition happening here, and Andy Farrell has capped a lot of guys in the last kind of 18 months to 2 years since he took over. But someone like Zebo coming into the squad, we know what he can do. He's someone I can go in against and play against New Zealand or any of those games, and I think he's capable of performing and doing something special. But Hugo Quinlan is the one for me, is the only one of that back 3 who's really nailed down that jersey in over the last period of time. So the openings for me are on the wings.
Would you apply he needs to be patient logic to Jack O'Donoghue as well, or is he hard done by here?
He's unlucky, but you look at the quality of the players, the back row players that have been picked. He could argue that Nick Timoney has come in and that why is he getting in there? Well, he's played exceptionally well in the first 4 games for Ulster. He's very, very powerful. So he's unlucky. He's very unlucky. And maybe he's just, the perception is he's just a level below those other guys. He's got to really, it's a bit like, and I've probably been in this position myself where there's 4, 5, 6 guys ahead of you, and it's like the Grand Slam team in 2009. I tugged out in every game, but I had no complaints because you'd Heaslip, Ferris, David Wallace, Dennis Leamy. You just listing off the guys there that are players that are just exceptional back rowers. And there's a few players like Jack Conan is coming back as starting number 8 for the Lions. You've Doris. I think Gavin Coombs' acceleration has been very impressive. So there's, Peter O'Mahony's there, Josh van der Fleer. There's an energy about his performances over the last period of time as well. And towards the end of the Six Nations, he was brilliant. So look, it's a difficult one. It's a difficult one for Jack O'Donoghue. Again, he's got to nail down at the starting, and you'd imagine it's probably as a 7 for Munster throughout. In the next period of time, and maybe put himself in a position for the Six Nations.
Yeah, possibly a straight shootout with O'Mahony, and it doesn't look like he's going anywhere anytime soon either. Come here, I want to spend a few minutes talking about the games this weekend, particularly the action at the Aviva, Connacht and Ulster, and obviously Connacht off the back of lots of interesting stuff. Obviously all the Andy Friend comments and the narrow defeat to Munster obviously last weekend as well. But yeah, so it's probably, they might be playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder at the minute, Quinny, which would be no harm for them.
No, and I think it's a really big game for him now, because the one thing that has been aimed at him is probably consistency, and it's a home game essentially for Connacht, but it takes away that intense kind of pressure that you get at the sports ground by bringing it to the Aviva. The idea was to try and generate extra funds and get people living in Dublin or in the area to try and bump up the crowd a little bit. I'm not sure that's worked fully for them. I hope they get a big crowd. It's consistency is the key for them. They put in a big performance last week, a very aggressive one. They're going to be playing against an Ulster side who we're not really sure where they're at, even though they've 4 very, very impressive kind of wins. I wouldn't say performances, but, you know, they were against Glasgow at home, Zebra away, Zebra away, Benetton at home, and the Lions. So we're not really sure where Ulster are at. Connacht have lost 3 games. There's very intense pressure on them. They need to bring the same kind of aggression and energy as last week, and take on an Ulster side who would be kind of full of confidence and believing that you know, it's an easier experience for them going to the Aviva. Ulster have played well there in recent years than going to the sports ground. But really important, you know, if you look at, if Connacht lose this game, it's kind of a couple of steps forward and a couple of steps backwards again, which has been the issue for them. They're a very good side. When they get it right, they're a great side to watch. I think it'll be a great game because Ulster throw the ball around a little bit as well. The weather might be a bit tricky for conditions-wise, but it's a hard one to call, this game.
Yeah, I'm going along tomorrow evening. Quinny, as you said, there's tickets still available as well. You can check out the Connacht social channels for that. Tickets still available. And like, it wasn't so long ago we couldn't get to live sports. I'd recommend, if you have half an interest at all, get down there and shout it on. It does definitely remove some of the home advantage. I'll be wearing my green scarf, Quinny, as you're aware. I'll be adopting another province, obviously, for the day that's in it.
Well, you're half a Connacht man anyway.
Get out of it. Come here, before we wrap, I did want to ask you about the announcement from the RFU during the week. Greg McWilliams has come in as the head coach of the women's team. Adam Griggs has left, and I read Anthony Eddy's statement with a bit of interest, citing a disappointment with the World Cup qualification. He wasn't saying that was the reason that Adam Griggs was leaving and he's staying within the ecosystem of the RFU, but he did definitely sort of mention that. In your view, do you think the RFU are or need to look a bit deeper than just the head coach role in terms of the rationale for that?
Yes, I think they've launched an independent inquiry into what happened and the failure to qualify for New Zealand, the World Cup in New Zealand, which that process is still ongoing. And I think that's really important, that the findings of that are acted upon. We know there's issues. There's lots of issues we can say about the All-Ireland League and the strength and more development, but there's a lot being done. And I said this already, there is structures in place. They just need to be strengthened. I think if anything is to come out of what happened with the disappointment for that group of women and not qualifying for that World Cup and the women's game in general, I think it's you try and learn some lessons here, improve the structures. This isn't necessarily about opening the checkbook. It's about getting more people involved in the women's game, trying to get the scheduling right. Very simply, the interpros, none of the internationals played in the interpros, and I think they went in undercooked. And that's not just me saying it. That's a number of ex-internationals saying that those girls should have played in those interpros, got some matches under their belt. Maybe it might have been that small little difference that they needed. So there's certain things need to change. I think with Greg McWilliams coming in, having previously been involved, and you know, he was there under Philip Doyle in 2013 when they won a Grand Slam, and that was the Everest, really, you know. They beat New Zealand as well. He was involved in that in 2014. So, you know, he's reached highs with him before. I think by all accounts, his structures and his man management and the impact he's had in USA and Yale University and with the USA Eagles and Rugby New York. I think there's nothing but positive come out. So I think, look, at the end of the day, one of the things that has to happen on field is their skills need to improve. There was too many basic errors and mistakes. And so maybe, you know, out of a very negative situation, maybe some structural change, some more awareness about it, about the game, and trying to improve the skill set of the girls right across the board will help. And it will give them a little bit of a focus to say, look, it's gone now. We got to improve in the next cycle and, you know, try and get some positive results against Japan and the USA in the next couple of weeks, and maybe look forward to the Six Nations then and kind of bin that. And if there is some improvements made across the board and a little bit of excitement about some young players coming through and this improvements of skills, well then it'll be a positive thing. But we'll have to wait and see what the inquiry brings out. But I would imagine that, it'll go right down to trying to get more girls playing the game, trying to get more equality across the league. Too many one-sided results. So look, hopefully it's a positive thing, and that some sort of positivity will come out of the appointment of Greg McWilliams. I think they're all pretty excited about him taking over.
Yeah, it does seem that way. All right, we'll talk to you next week. Good man.
Cheers, lads.
Alan Quinlan, their co-host of the Red 78 Munster podcast, alongside Niamh Briggs. Every episode live on the Rugby channel. Episode 2 is now live, available every week wherever it is you get your podcasts. The full video available as well on the Rugby channel YouTube page. You can find them on Twitter as well, at Rugby Channel 15. We're going